Hey everybody, welcome to 2024 and Obscurities in Miniature. It is time for us to officially take a look back at the year 2023 and see what models really made an impression for me. And maybe for you too. But it's just a chance for me to ramble on about models and painting and figures, and hey, it's my channel, and I like doing that, so why not get started? This first figure is probably going to be, well, one that might come as a surprise. In fact, quite a few of these might come as a surprise to you guys, unless you really, really pay close attention. But it's because, as far as I know, this is one of the very few figures from Piper Makes that I've actually painted. This is one of the Corridoba, I believe, was the official term for it. And it's funny because, as I said, this was one of the very few that I painted. So the fish faction, for lack of a better term, because that's what they're all designated as, from Piper Makes, are just a ridiculous joy to play around with. Everything is completely modular, everything is fully functional with each other, and there's just so many different types of models, but this one in particular, I was trying to do something different with the colors. I mean, we've got all sorts of different various classes. These are guppies, I believe, that I've painted in the past. If you have any interest in the greater good and spreading that word across your tabletop, I absolutely cannot recommend Piper Makes enough. She has the most ridiculous amount of customization options out there. I'm not even kidding. And so what's funny is, as I said, this is probably the only model of hers that I actually painted this year. Painted being the key word, because I printed, I kid you not, probably close to hundreds of parts. I've just got like just pieces constantly laying around to build more and more stuff with. I'm just like, I don't want to break things, but you can see this is just like the one little bag I had handy, but like the fish faction for the greater good is finished up at this point. They're doing reruns of the models. Some of the battle suits of various sizes. These are really cool because you can see here there's these modular slots, and then you can slot in like whatever kind of weapons you want, and everything, as I said, is totally modular. But she's actually moved past the fish mechs and is now working on the void frames, which are just as ridiculous. This is like one of the Priestley ones floating around that I just broke one of the parts on. That was real fun. Somewhere I have like some of the warrior cast ones. Again, and I've got like a bajillion parts just like floating around waiting to get built. Some of the Guardian class. I like these with their tiny non-existent toes. And if you're not into, you know, regular little mechs, we've got larger things. As I said, I have been meaning for years at this point to do a focus on Piper's stuff, and I just have never gotten around to it because I can't stop printing it. I'm not kidding. I mean, I've barely painted any of it. And there's like so many different types of infantry units. There's like aerial ones, which I guess would be like a Vespid style. And like grabbing a bunch of other ones I got laying around. I mean, I've got guppy kill teams that I really need to get around to painting. You had like these big punchy bot ones with giant pile driver hands here. Smashing a void frame up. Like I said, battle suits of various sizes and various limbs. Never finished this one. There's just a ton of stuff. And I'm hoping this year that I'm going to fix that and actually finish up some of the various crazy stuff that I've got floating around from Piper's. The chuckling squid here. This was the biggest pain in the butt to get everything figured out and attached to that base, but I did it and I really want to paint it, so hopefully this might show up in a best of 2024 when I finally get around to it. But yeah, our Corridoba friend here is one of my favorite, and I was trying to go with an Infinity style color scheme, and hopefully we'll see some more of those in the future. But I had promised myself, I had been meaning to talk about Piper stuff for quite some time. For those of you who don't know it, who aren't familiar with it, you gotta go check out that link. Absolutely crazy bonkers stuff, especially if you like customizing. You're never gonna stop printing. I mean, honestly, you never will. It's not gonna happen. All right, my friend from Shinkenger. What was his name? Like Decker, I think, was the English name that I have nice and glossy. But he's really tough and resistant. This is from the Power Rangers, Heroes of the Grid board game. I really liked Shinkenger when my kids were watching it. That was like when they were prime age for that kind of stuff. I've been keeping my eyes peeled for more of the Power Rangers stuff, but they haven't had a lot of interesting villains. It's always the heroes, and personally, I don't care about the heroes. It's all the same kind of guys. Alright. Now, this next model I had to print, and I had to get painted, and I had to show off, because this was the very first 5-star servant in Fate that I ever got, Okita Soji. And she carried me through a ridiculous chunk of the game. And I think Erkman, who did this one, really kind of captured that vibe as she's about to, what is it, her Noble Phantasm, I believe was what the attacks are called. I haven't played Fate in a while. I should probably get back to it, but I've got better things to do, like working on this channel. I really thought he did a really cool job with this. Now, we have some really cool stuff coming from Erkman's this year, starting with Grace Novamon, which was a Digimon figure that I have been pining away and begging him to do, and I'm so happy to see it. So hopefully I'm going to actually get that one painted. And here's another random Piper droid laying around. I don't know. There's no order to anything here. Okay, I'd have one Conquest model, and I probably mentioned it many times. This is one of the Order of the Ashen Dawn. I absolutely love these models. They are the biggest, thickest, chunkiest. I mean, this is a handful of a model for a cavalry unit. And normally I can't stand cavalry. It's just a lot of work to paint. But this model is just, he is intimidating looking. He is impressive physically in your hands. You could throw him and it would probably hurt your opponent. And he'd probably bounce back in one piece. And they're supposed to be in-game. I haven't had a chance to field these yet, but they're supposed to be really, really tough. And what's cool is you actually have command cards for all three of them in the box, whereas at least some of the other units, I believe, that have been made for both, you know, the basic, what is it, block battle versus the skirmish stuff, these guys are actually available individually in the skirmish unit, which is kind of cool. Very nice model there, too. I had to have one GW model at least, and for me it was the Cruel Boys for, what's it called? I forgot the name of the game. Underworlds. No, not Underworlds, Warcry. These guys do have an Underworlds warband, but I love this Warcry boss. There's just so much going on with him, and I really tried to actually do some painting and distinguishing all the little bits and pieces on him, which is a bit of a challenge for me. But we tried. I feel like the skin tone actually looks a lot better in person. It looks kind of washed out on camera. His little buddies were pretty cool too. All of them were wearing skull helmets. I tried to get some highlighting and shading on his leathers there. And at least somewhat tangentially related to the Games Workshop stuff is the Forge World stuff. Okay, I can't remember half the names. But all these were, I think, sculpted by the same guy, and I absolutely just, when I saw these models, I knew I had to have him. What was his name? Like Ajax Gorfid? No, Gorfus was somebody else. There is just a whole lot going on with this model, but it spoke to me, and you know, he's missing a nose there. I thought was kind of fun too. If I ever get around to playing 5 Parsecs again, because I played it once just to kind of figure out the rules and then set it aside and haven't touched it again, unfortunately, he is absolutely going to be somebody in that warband. But like I said, I couldn't make up my mind to pick between one Necromunda model, because I painted a few of them this year. And honestly, these Forge World figures I just thought were really cool, really fun, and really pricey, but that's Forge World for you. I thought all of them were quite visually distinct from each other. And despite my mediocre paint jobs, I think even if I can elevate them, somebody who's a much better painter than me could really make them shine. But they're just nice models. Once everything is, you know, dealt with on them. There was a lot of cleanup involved. Okay, probably my favorite Kingdom Death model that we saw this year was, what was this? This was like the Death King armor or whatever. They're just really cool. But this pose in particular, with the sword over the shoulder, very guts, very berserk looking. And it really spoke to me. And I knew as soon as I got my Gambler's Chest, this model had to get painted. I had to have him built this way, and he had to be painted immediately. And I think I got him painted like within a day or two. I really like that figure. Alright. I couldn't make up my mind. I love the Dragon Trappers Lodge stuff. They're probably my favorite Patreon. Just in terms of sheer breadth of interesting stuff. And I had to go with one of the very first of the Order of the Crimson Flame guys that I had painted. This is like one of the generic dragon troops. Now, of course, there are more heavily armed versions. We've got like the heavy infantry veterans that have more armor and bigger weapons. I'm like looking around. Here we've got the actual veteran models that are way more armored. And then there's actually like a whole nother unit, but this guy in particular, because he was kind of my test bed. He wasn't the first of them that I painted. I think I painted the medic first. And I was looking for him. I thought I had him handy, but I guess I don't. Oh well. A couple more models I want to look at with you guys here. Take a nice flashback. Now, I'm a big fan of Raging Hero, and I know some of you aren't, some of you are. But this guy, the big bad from their Samurai release, I really liked. It reminds me of the dude from Lone Wolf and Cub a bit. Reminds me of like Ninja Scroll, Ninja Resurrection, Makai Tensho, all those kind of, you know, the big evil leader, master swordsman. And he's impressive. I mean, he's a tall model in comparison to a regular human scale model. He's got some presence to him. He looks like he knows how to use those swords. Those swords are like taller than he is almost. Very cool model. I don't know about you guys, but I saw like for January of 24, Raging Heroes has some new Chaos stuff, which absolutely I am excited to be printing as soon as I get a hold of it. Let's see. Oh, I have to have this guy included. Tupik Pa the All Slayer. This, I'm sure I've talked about this enough in person to people that know me, and I absolutely loved this model. I can't get enough of it. As soon as I saw the renders of it, I knew I had to get it printed. And I mean, it's an impressive piece. He's heavy, he's solid, he's not even hollowed out. I don't want to throw him at somebody because it would probably break. I like his little Chilly Willy friend here with the standard. Just a fun model overall and quite impressive. And like some of you mentioned, using it for something like The Doomed, I think is a great idea. Or maybe 5 Miles from the Borderland if you want to do like an Arctic themed one. I know not Raging Heroes. Raging Heroes does have a bunch of Arctic ladies you can use. I was going to say Dragon Trappers Lodge had all these fun little ice elemental guys, and they had like their orcas and stuff, which would tag along nicely with Archvillains. Archvillain had a bunch of orcas in this release too. And with all the various sales going on, you might be able to get these guys at a nice discount. Discounts are always nice. And let's just wrap it up with one more model here. You might have seen this model show up a bunch. He's always on my table. I absolutely love this model in particular that I've printed a ton for both myself and my brother. I've painted a few myself. These are the Nyx Power Armors that were from Crimson Steel Mechworks Calamities Ashes Kickstarter campaign. And there should be a new campaign, I believe, or I know there's new models coming very soon because I've already been playing around with some. Hopefully I'll get those painted. But absolutely, these are almost as bad as Piper's stuff, if not worse in some respects. Everything is totally modular, and there's a ton of different options. This one was my first. And as you can see, he's in very Votom's inspired colors there with the red shoulder as well. And I'm constantly, this is one of those models, I've put a bunch of the other Nyx frames that I've built, I've put them away, but this guy, he keeps hanging around. I absolutely love this model. This one was definitely a keeper. Doesn't even matter at this point, how many variations on the Nyx are there? I mean, we've had like Crusader ones, we've had like the close combat ones, I always have this guy handy. We've had like the command and heavy weaponry guys. These are just the 3 that I have painted. We're not even going to talk about how many unpainted parts are laying around between me and my brother as well. But, you know, it's kind of crazy looking back at some of the stuff. At least for me, the things that I tend to paint, you know, tend to be very different and eclectic. Much like the focus of this channel. If you're looking at everything that I've got. There were a lot of cool stuff this year, and I mean, already, just from the rumblings of things that I'm hearing that are coming down the pipeline and what we've seen so far for 2024's early releases, there's a whole lot of fun stuff coming up. So as always, we'll have those links for you guys down below. And I want to say thank you to everybody who has helped support this channel. 2023 was a good year in the sense that I met my personal goal. I wanted to get to 10,000 subscribers, which, you know, I don't know, it sounds like a lot, but I guess in the overall big picture of YouTube people, it's not kind of a dip in the bucket for some of them. But for me, I mean, this was very much a DIY thing that I've done in my free time on my own. And, you know, the fact that that many of you out there have been interested and willing to listen to me ramble on for I don't know how many years now. Like, has it been almost 4 or 5 years? I don't even know. But it truly makes me appreciate everybody that's been out there. And I did say that I would do some sort of contest giveaway thing for hitting that subscriber mark. And I do intend to do that. So keep an eye out on those Monday videos. I will definitely be figuring that out. I've got all kinds of stuff, and I keep thinking I've got so many extra models laying around that I just feel like I'm never going to get to, and I got to figure out some way. Maybe I should just start giving them away to people that are interested. I don't know. I'm sure some of you are like, no, I have too many as it is. We'll figure something out, though. And this is probably one of the only times you'll ever hear me talk about it. We do have a Patreon, and I do appreciate all of you out there that are helping support it, because honestly, at this point, my channel has gotten to be pretty much self-sufficient. Everything that I've made off of this goes right back into buying more resin and supporting more artists out there and getting those models printed, shown off, hunted down, wherever they may be. And you know, if you have a few bucks, why not send them our way, and we'll let you guys join the Discord. And, you know, that's probably all you're ever going to hear about me mention that again for the entirety of 2024. I'm not big on pestering people, and I feel kind of guilty, but my wife's like, you need to ask, you should say something about it. So I have done my husbandly duty in mentioning that. But honestly, you know, I really, like I said, thank you everybody out there. I'm hoping that this year is going to be just as awesome when it comes to the tabletop stuff, as well as our everyday today. And hopefully all of you out there are celebrating, enjoying time with family and friends, staying safe, staying healthy, and staying happy painting all of these minis. So with that said, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying, crap, what did I always say? I'm totally forgot. That's what happens when I stay up all night. All right, well, we'll see you guys soon. Or something like that, right? Bye-bye.